New World Aeternum is coming out October 15th, and as we get closer to the release, I wanted to make a quick guide on my top 8 tips. 8 tips on getting a better start in New World Aeternum. Let's jump right in. I'll start with the caveat that if you're a casual player and you're looking just to have fun, just play the game. It is a really fun game. The story is pretty good as is, and they've also done a lot of updates on it and made it a little bit better. So even before jumping into Aeternum, as it currently stands, the story is pretty good. Just have fun. But if you're on this video, I'm assuming that you want to optimize your early game. You're somebody who wants to earn a bunch of gold, or you're maybe just somebody who wants to rush into that end game because the end game is where you have the most fun. I respect all of that, and that's why I'm making this video. Right off the bat, I'll say that choosing the archetype is more about the trade skill than the weapons and armor. Lately, that has been a very controversial point that I have made, and some people are rebutting it, but I stand by it. The more important aspect of your archetype is your trade skills. The weapon and armor that you receive will be unequipped for new weapons and new gear within no time. Don't choose based on those. Also, the game does a very good job of introducing you to all of the various weapons in the opening area. I don't know if that is going to be changed upon this new updated release, but as it currently stands, you can find all of the weapons in the starting area, which gives you plenty of time to try each of them out, equip them, and find out which one you like the best. The only thing that will not change is the 3 trade skills that you get a boost to level 50 in. Choose wisely. I really liked the sword bearer in the open beta, but unfortunately it comes with fishing and cooking as 2 of its perks, and I've never really been a fan of fishing. Although cooking is a great late game strategy, and being able to get buffs that cooking provides is huge, but it still is one thing I would rather just buy from the store instead of spending one of my trade skill boosts on. So as a first point, I recommend not looking at the archetypes as a way to obtain a different weapon, but instead as a way of getting 3 trade skills that are boosted to 50. Choose them wisely because they will affect the first dozen hours of your gameplay at least, whereas the weapons and armor that you receive could possibly only affect about 30 minutes to an hour, especially once you have access to the trading post. My second tip is to craft all of the starting tools at the first campfire that you find. In one of the first initial quests you'll be given, you are asked to make a skinning knife to kill a boar and then to cook that boar to make some food. When you are equipping the knife and crafting the knife more specifically, you should go ahead and craft the other tools as well. You probably won't be able to craft the fishing rod unless they change what is required to make it, but go ahead and craft the other tools while you're there and equip them. You will need them. My third tip is to grab any special resource you find along the way. If you choose a class that gives you a trade skill up to 50, you should go ahead and use that. And if you find an iron node along the way, grab it immediately. Do not wait to turn in a quest and then come back for it later. There's a good chance it won't be there. Someone will find it and someone will take it from you. When the game first came out, so many years ago, it was almost impossible to find these resources in the very early game because it was a highly contested thing. People were taking them almost immediately. My fourth tip is to get out of the starting area with the weapons you want to use. I know that's a little backwards based on my initial advice to not choose your archetype based on the weapons, but again, you should get out of the initial area with one of each of the initial weapons. You should equip them, kind of play around with them, find out what you like as your first and secondary, and then do your best to get out of the first area with armor that aligns with what you want, or buy it from the trading post as soon as possible. The reason I say that is because Amazon has deployed a system that tries to reward your drops to align with what you currently have equipped. If you have heavy armor that is all going towards strength, along with a sword and shield and a great axe as a secondary, you will find that most of the drops you receive will be in alignment with those stats. They are trying to reward people and make them feel like the drops that they get are more rewarding. That is to say that if you open a container or fight a boss that has a possible drop of a blunderbuss or a musket or light armor, those will almost be completely taken off the field and replaced with the ones, or given priority for the ones that more align with what you currently have equipped. So although it may not be super important, I do recommend as soon as you possibly can finding out what weapons and armor you like and equipping those, because the game will reward you with that gear when you complete certain things. My fifth tip is a dual tip, and that is to join a guild and a faction as soon as possible. In your early gameplay, you will receive quite a lot of requests for guilds. I recommend joining a faction that aligns with what you want to do in the game. A good example would be joining Marauders if you enjoy PvP or fighting in general, and then joining a guild that aligns with that faction, something that will have other people in it that are trying to do the content that you enjoy doing. If you are primarily a PvP player, then join a guild and a faction that align with that. If you know you're going to be primarily doing raids or even solo content, then join a faction and a guild that aligns with that. In addition to that, start doing faction quests early. It is very important to start leveling up your faction and getting more and more currency so that you can unlock the later and later rewards because they are really good. My sixth tip is to mark yourself for PvP. I know this is a little bit controversial because there's many people who don't enjoy that aspect of the game, but from my experience, there's not a ton of people who actually are going out of their way to fight other people or kill other people, or the moment they see somebody who is marked as PvP, to attack them and kill them. That's not to say that it doesn't happen. And that's not to say that in the early parts of the game, you may not have people who know what they're doing and decide to take it out on the new guys to fight them, but try it out before you decide to unmark yourself and not do PvP. During my experience, I found that not a ton of people messed with me, and if they did, they usually were just choosing one particular area to pick on people. If it happened a couple times, I unmarked myself from PvP, continued on with my quests, and then as soon as I felt it was reasonable, I remarked myself for PvP and moved on. Marking yourself for PvP greatly increases the amount of experience you receive for doing quests and for doing other things. I highly encourage you to mark yourself for PvP as often as possible. My seventh tip is to make a camp often or tag yourself to someone else's camp anytime you see one. This is a great feature that gives you a respawn point in case you end up dying, which will happen. If you are marked for PvP, it might happen a little more often than other times, but even while doing PvE content, it is pretty normal to die. When you die, being able to respawn at a camp that is right next to the quest you were trying to complete or the event you were trying to do is wonderful instead of going back to a city. My eighth and final tip is to concentrate on the main quest as much as possible. Don't be bogged down by side quests that are really far away from the main area or even town board quests. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't side quests that can align with main quest missions, but what you will find as you are leveling is completing the main quest might give you 3,000 experience, whereas this little side quest that might take you a lot longer to complete will only give you 800 to 1,000 experience. It is infinitely more rewarding for you to complete the main quests than it is to complete side quests and town board quests. Now, if you are able to stack them together to complete a main quest or do an objective in an area where you are already doing the main quest, that is wonderful. And you will find NPCs along your adventure that are standing nearby areas that you have to complete main quests. Picking up their quest will be able to give you additional experience without requiring you to go very far out of your way. Having said that, there are other quests that are pretty far out of the way or will ask you to go to areas that are very far out of the way. Sometimes if you sideline those side quests, eventually you'll find that you are taken to that area by your main quest, and now those things align. So grabbing these quests is not always a bad thing, but trying to go out of your way to complete these side quests is not always a great idea, especially considering the fact that completing a main quest can give you 4 to 5 times the amount of experience that these small side quests are giving you. And that wraps it up. Those are my top tips for what I would tell a person who is just now picking up New World to jump in. I hope all of you guys have as much fun as I've been having in New World, and I look forward to the new server launch with the release of New World Aeternum. Hope to see all of you guys there. If you felt that I gave you value here, I would greatly appreciate a like, a comment, and a subscription if you feel I deserved it.